All right, so let's see if this works this time. Seeing if my streaming software will connect to YouTube, and I think we are good. Let's just see here. Yeah, we're good. Awesome. Let me know if you can hear me down in the comment section below. So I've had about every technical difficulty you could possibly think of with the stream this morning. So thank you to everybody who's been patient as we work through this. But I want to go ahead and get started. We might have a little bit of an abbreviated stream this morning since it's taken so long for this to get rolling. But let's jump back into where I started on that first stream. So I try to take a little bit of a break over the weekends away from crypto just because I'm so plugged into this space, not 24/7, but like 24, 5.5, 6.5, something like that. Okay. But this weekend, truth to be told, it was hard to walk away because I kept just checking my phone and saying, what is going on with these markets? Like, why is this, is dumping so hard? I'm sure that's one of the first things on everybody's mind is they're, coming into work this morning or checking their phone, whatever you got going on. This seems to be the thing everybody's talking about, okay? So I'm going to give you my thoughts on this. What I think, is this dump over? Why did it happen? Is there more to come? Is this the top? All that kind of stuff, all right? I'll talk about this as a blockchain developer who works with this technology on a daily basis, who's also, invested in these markets as well, watched this space for years now. Okay, so before we get into that, if you're around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn how to become a blockchain master step-by-step, start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. All right, so we got people jumping in the chat here. Yeah, thanks everybody for being patient and, sticking with me through these technical difficulties this morning. So anyways, we got Game Elevator, Nardia, Robert, the Mighty Mustache, Phil, Abramo, Dan. Awesome. Welcome. So let's go ahead and jump into the markets this morning because that's definitely the story of the day, the thing that's on everybody's mind right now. So we got, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Binance Coin, XRP, and Dogecoin sitting at number 5. We talked about Doge last week and how this is crazy that it's had this meteoric rise up into the top 5 spot of the crypto charts. And it's like, it didn't really experience that much of it was sort of the strong, it held a very strong position this weekend as everything else was dumping. So let's take a look here. So basically, ETH, everything took a pretty nasty turn right over the weekend. So let's just kind of jump up, look at the 7-day here. All right, on ETH, we came down to 2,000 after, being over 2,500. I don't think this is something that a lot of people anticipated that we would go down that fast. But it's kind of what happens in crypto, okay? It definitely, it's one of those things where you have to be cautious anytime you see gains because sometimes when gains come really fast, they disappear just as quick as they were realized. Okay, it's not realized gains, but you get what I'm saying. So I've been talking about this leading up to the Coinbase pump. Okay, so this is one big factor that I think is in play here. Is what's going on with the Coinbase direct listing. If you've been following the channel, we've been talking about this as one of the big events on the horizon. Is it going to have an effect? I think one thing to keep in mind is that just simply because everybody thinks it's going to have an effect, it very likely could have an effect. Now, that being said, will it be a lasting effect? So, we saw the Coinbase pump happen, a couple days before the direct listing and then also after, all right? Got people really excited, but then you see this kind of blow up happen. So I do think that the Coinbase event, the direct listing, has something to do with the price increases that we've seen lately. And very possibly also this correction that we saw over the weekend. Now, another thing to watch out for is what happened this weekend. Keyword being weekend. So if you've been following with these live streams, and if you haven't, you really should turn on notifications. Show up at the channel about 9:30 a.m. Central Time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday through Friday. We got started super late today because of the technical difficulties I was having. But there's a recurring theme that like Mondays tend to be kind of the day that everybody's panicked and are trying to figure out what should I be doing, with these prices dumped over the weekend. Well, weekends are key. Okay. I've been making these videos I think I've probably made 3 or 4 of these Monday videos over the past 8 weeks, 8-9 weeks, where basically what happens is leverage goes up a lot of times on weekends. So what does that mean? Well, basically, people who trade cryptocurrency, they can trade on leverage. They can basically trade with cryptocurrency they don't have on certain exchanges. to increase your exposure. Hear about people trading on like 100x leverage, all this kind of stuff. Well, basically, you see this happen a lot on weekends because crypto trades 24/7. People are off work on weekends. You can't trade like you can in traditional financial markets on the weekends, like you can in crypto. Okay, so there's lots of factors. You can even go monitor the price of leverage as it goes up. And what happens with leverage is it makes very brittle markets. Okay, markets that are, a pin literally can just, come in and just like pop the bubble that's happening. So, I mean, you could have a situation where essentially like the Coinbase direct listing creates a lot of hype, and then you add leverage on top of that. Okay, people are saying, oh yeah, we got this Coinbase thing, so we're going to enter all these leverage long positions, and we're going to just go off to infinity, and then it just completely unwinds anytime any little, tiny panic enters into the market. And so we saw some FUD happen over this weekend. I'm not going to get into every single possible detail, but those are some possible scenarios. So, I'll walk you through sort of how I think about these things, because again, I've been plugged into these markets day in, day out for years now. Again, not a big trader, not a big TA guy, but I do like to think analytically because, I'm an engineer. And I think there's something that can be said for thinking about markets that way, okay? But one thing you have to understand is nobody really knows exactly what's happening or why everything happens, or what's going to happen next, right? And like anybody who claims that with 100% certainty, like you kind of got to watch out, right? Some people are very good. Some people are very good, right? But you got to be kind of a little skeptical. So if that's true, if nobody really knows exactly what's going to happen, how do you think about this? So the first question is like, should you panic in these situations? So the first answer is always absolutely not. Like you never want to make any kind of decision under panic. Now, as always, everything I'm saying in this video is not financial advice, not trying you to buy or sell cryptocurrency based on this information, but I will always be an advocate for caution. And if you're going to make good sound decisions, number one is don't panic, okay? So now I know that's like way easier said than done, but part of it is trying to remove as much emotion from the equation as humanly possible, okay? So I get it, like, even though I've been here for a long time and have, been hardened by major crashes and have kind of sometimes been, have developed a healthy callousness to volatility, I'll put it that way. The longer you're in here and the longer you've been invested and the farther away you get from your buying position, like percentages and volatility turn into much higher dollar amounts. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So I guess the point I'm trying to make is when I see these kinds of corrections, it still kind of hurts a little bit, even though I've been around for a while. So think about, some of you who are watching this video, let's say you bought in cryptocurrency and then, it goes up like 10x in price, okay? And then at 10x, like your portfolio starts swinging by like 30%. Like, well, you're going to see a pretty large dollar amount change, right? And those 30% swings might be kind of painful, even though you're really far away from your buying price. So I was thinking about a really simple example. Let's say, like a lot of people's like dream in crypto is to make like $1 million or something like that. Okay. So let's just say you got that dream and like your portfolio is now worth $1 million and you start experiencing 30% corrections. Well, that basically means like on those corrections, you're losing $300,000. Now, I know some of you watching this channel have already met that goal and are even beyond that goal, but for the vast majority of people, like they're like hoping to get to that point at some time. Or maybe not. Maybe they're just trying to look to pay off debts or, save up for a house or, set up, do something nice for their kids. There's lots of people that have different goals, but that is a really common one. But I'm saying, like, even if you got to that point, don't forget when the volatility hits, like those are the kind of numbers that you're talking about. So even then you have to still make really rational decisions. So that being the case, like, let's step through this and talk about it. How do you try to make rational decisions that are not as emotional during these times when you see these major changes, right? So first, it's talking about possibilities, right? If you don't truly know what's going to happen, you're trying to take some emotion out of the equation, you have to think about scenarios and what scenario is likely. So right now, we're going to ask, to try to take emotion out of the equation, the big question is what's going to happen long term, okay? Because the great thing about the short term is you can do nothing, right? You could just sit back and wait for things to fix themselves, right? We've seen so many dips here, and you can just wait for the dips to end, right? So that being said, not financial advice. We don't know for sure that this is just a dip. It could be more than a dip. Okay, I'm not telling you to buy the dip. I'm not telling you to diamond hands hold on forever. All right, but if you have conviction that there's more to the market beyond this dip, then what should you be thinking about? Well, you should be thinking about what's the likelihood that this dip turns into something more. If it does turn into something more, towards the downside, how long will that be? What do I need to do in that amount of time? So all that kind of stuff. And think about possibility scenarios. So let's look at some indications on whether or not this would be like a top. Okay. I'll tell you what I personally think about it, as always, not financial advice. But I can tell you, what I personally do in these types of situations. And what part I'm trying to do is help you get into sort of my thought process when I'm looking at these things, of trying to take, as much emotion as humanly possible off the table to try to make good long-term decisions. Let's look here. I want to look at some on-chain metrics. So I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to get it pulled up here. Navigate this online. It gets a little harder to navigate. I had to restart my computer after the technical difficulties today, and it kind of throws off my live stream setup. Okay, here. All right, here we go. So let's look at some on-chain metrics to take a look at kind of where we are through things. So part of it is thinking about past and history, because I know that history is not always an indication of what's going to happen in the future. But if history is anywhere close to an indicator, and we can look at some of these past metrics, we can try to see, like, has the market experienced a true euphoric period. And based on the on-chain metrics, it hasn't, right? I know you can't quite see my full chart over here, but yeah, based on the on-chain metrics, we have not hit a euphoric period based on the Bitcoin supply. Okay. So to me, that's a good thing. That's a positive, encouraging sign that, if history is to repeat itself, there's a lot of assumptions that we have in the markets, like, are we in a cycle? Are we in a super cycle? If we're on the side of, I think we're in a cycle side of things, and, we haven't entered a euphoric phase, and that in history is any indication of what likely will happen next, then by those assumptions, then we're probably not going to enter into some sort of like crypto winter after this weekend. Okay. And by that logic, what I personally will do based on this information, not financial advice for you, is really nothing. Just wait it out. Okay. Now, if things got worse, I would personally start thinking of, some backup plans, but that's not what I'm thinking here. So by the logical opposite, that just makes me cautiously bullish for the long term, but cautiously is key here, right? You don't want to just blindly be bullish, but cautiously bullish. So that's kind of how I think about things, how I step through it, try to think about it as rationally as possible, look at different indicators. There's lots more indicators I could look at, but as always, I'm not a big trader. I'm not a big TA guy. I don't like these things. They're great traders out there. They're great technical analysts out there. I'm just not one of them. So I have to use a different set of tools to make decisions. Now, I'll listen to great traders, great TA guys. There's lots of them you can go find out there floating online. That's just not my skill set. I think about these things differently. And yeah, that's just kind of my thought process. And so I'm doing a lot of what I always do in these markets, which is absolutely nothing. I'm not buying more. I'm not buying the dip. I'm not telling you to buy the dip. I'm not telling you not to buy the dip. That's just what I'm doing. So we got some questions in the chat here. Spy says, if in Doge, you better have Elon's Twitter notifications on. So let's see here. Yeah, so the opposite is you also have to prepare for the opposite. So you have to think about if your thesis is wrong. There could be invalid assumptions here. The invalid assumption is that we could be in a cycle, and the cycle may not end like everyone's expecting it to. Maybe our past models don't work. Maybe we don't quite get to a euphoric phase. and we just slow down and enter into a winter. Okay, that's very possible. Okay, the past is not always an indication of what's going on in the future. We have to look at as many data points as possible and try to project what we think is most likely to happen. Okay, so that is something that could also happen. So if we dump further for here and we did hit into a winter, we have to cross that bridge when we get there. But you always have to keep that possibility in mind. But you should never panic. Okay, you should never panic. And like I said, I know that's easier said than done, but the whole point is like trying to make actual decisions when you're not in panic mode. You know what I mean? So like if you are in panic, whatever you can possibly do to like relieve stress before you make an actual decision, whether it's click the buy or click the sell button, whether it's go for a jog, take a nap, get a night's sleep or something, whatever you can do to try to reduce that initial impulse of panic. Like the people rarely make good decisions when they're in that state. Somebody says is IPFS completely free. You can post on IPFS for free. Somebody says that a Cannondale on the trainer. No, it's a Trek Imanda. Let's see, Team Ethereum. That's right. Somebody says Dogecoin is future. Yeah, I've been really impressed by what's been going on with the Doge here. So let's see if we got any more questions. We might have to have a little bit of an abbreviated stream here today, everybody. Like I said, I got started pretty late because of these big technical difficulties. So I'll try to answer a couple questions here, and then we'll probably go ahead and sign off for today. We'll be back to our regular programming tomorrow, assuming that I can get these kinks worked out. ETH 2.0 to use Solidity? Yes. The difference between ETH Classic and ETH. So ETH Classic was a fork after the DAO. So basically, it's just the remnant that stayed behind after that, and it did not get the same upgrades that Ethereum has had ever since then. And it sort of like was just its own fork. And went on into independent development. Yeah, somebody says ETH Classic is the chain that didn't get rolled back. Yeah, basically. So if somebody says fork ? I wonder if they're talking about like ETH2 fork or what is a fork? So a fork is basically whenever basically two versions of software go off into two different directions. Think like a fork in the road, okay? So basically like one branch goes off one way and another branch goes off the other way. And then sometimes these things are both independently maintained. Sometimes they take different directions. That's the whole idea. So we saw a fork whenever Ethereum Classic happened and Ethereum, the current version of Ethereum went on its own way after the DAO. That's what people are talking about. A lot of people have questions like, is Ethereum 2.0 going to fork off into a different version? And then we see like an old version of Ethereum 1.0 stay behind. I don't think that's going to happen. I talked about that in one of my last videos, but I could be wrong. I don't have a super, super, super strong opinion on that, but my initial instinct is that it won't happen. So sometimes forks happen all the time. The thing you have to understand is does whenever you fork, it always happen. Like, I'm not doing a very good job explaining this. What I mean is every time you fork, you change directions. There's always a fork in the road. So sometimes it results in two roads, and sometimes it just results in one road. Most forks just result in one road, okay? But sometimes forks result in two roads. In the past, we've seen Ethereum Classic, Ethereum So the question is, will ETH 2.0 result in two roads or two different blockchains, or will it just result in everybody moving on to ETH 2.0? I personally think it's probably just going to be for ETH 2.0. All right, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and sign up for today. We had kind of an abbreviated live stream here. Had some technical difficulties this morning, but I still wanted to jump on and update you all with what's going on with the stream today, or with the markets today. One of the big things everybody's kind of wondering about. So I figured I would just chime in and let you all know. As always, smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That really helps these videos out so people learn about blockchain. If you like these videos, you're as fast in this technology as I am. How can you get your hands dirty today? Well, you go to my YouTube homepage. You can find my free courses there, like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. If you'd like those, you want to take the next step, or hey, even take a master shortcut entirely, I should become a blockchain master step-by-step from start to finish over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. All right. You have to be an expert to get started today. I've helped people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. All right. So that's all I've got. Until next time, thanks for watching.